democratic possibility in the country in the first place.
I hear that concern. But I guess as you were saying that, I think that the difference might actually be less the field in which we're fighting, or the space, the audience that we're speaking to, or the spaces that we're occupying professionally, and but the order of operations. Because it's not to me to say we're not going to talk about the particularity of that experience. You must. I could not agree more. But I think it's what comes first. Do we lead with the policy, or do we lead with the, discussion of entrenched racism? Yeah. Do we start? It makes me think of I don't know if it absolutely has to be both, but
kind of where I'm going with that is where they're like, we need to educate people on both. Why? I don't understand. Like, I understand why we need to educate people in school, but you are not gonna educate an overall population that is not in school. So that's my only thing. I don't understand why we have to do both. Do you understand what I'm saying, Mud? Do you get what where my feelings are?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that it's one of those things where everybody tries to make it seem like we gotta jump through this certain hoop before we can actually do this thing. And none of it is realistic. Like, we can just do reparations and just see how that pans out. You know, we don't really need to do a bunch of propaganda. Even though I do think that should be a piece of it, I do think that we should have some sort of educational piece to it.
Yeah, but that propaganda piece should be coming from Black institutions, not necessarily the government. Like with the Asians, right? That hotline they created themselves. Those Stop Anti-Asian Hate videos, that was paid for by themselves. The government didn't do that. The government's just responding to that shit and the propaganda that they're using to convince the people. You feel me?
I hear you, but I would just say that to your earlier point, like as far as like putting that propaganda in the schools, and I shouldn't say propaganda, just like education. Like, honestly, there should be like classes on like race and ethnicity.
And I agree with race, ethnicity, and class too, because them back in the day, white class wars was no joke. They was beating the brakes off of us too, but we get some of that fight back versus beating up on Negro, minus beating up on Negroes. We can harness some of that.
Yeah. I did want to talk about the clip real quick though. You're waiting for MJ.
Please do.
Well, the thing is like the conversation it seems to be framed this way. Bri's side is the only side that has policy to propose, and Bri's side just wants to have a conversation. And I think that a conversation about racism. And I think that what we're saying is that we want to have policies that deal with the outcome of that racism. Now, we may not be able to actually create policy that's going to actually deal with racism, because you can't legislate, things that are going to change people's heart and minds. The closest you can get is education, but I mean, you're not going to be able to do mass re-education, especially in a country
not for adults.
Yeah. So the thing is that this is like we're given a false choice here. And I think that Eddie should have picked up on that instead of going the direction of saying we should do both. I think he should have been like, well, we need to create policy that actually addresses.
Well, Eddie ain't never seen a fence he ain't wanted to straddle.
Yeah. But I mean, it's either way, we're dealing with, people that are trying to avoid the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
You're going to have to use the power of the government to actually address the issues of Black Americans who descend from American chattel slavery. That's basically it. And neither of them want to address that point.
Yeah, I just got one thing when MG was like, she looked a little flustered during the conversation. It's because she's not convincing this nigga to get down with class production. That's why she's like, what the fuck? Like, oh, the left won't get rid of me now. Because that's her whole job, to convince niggas to get down with this shit. Like, and it's not
Educators.
word up, like, to really flip them, like, get down with Medicare for all and fuck that reparation shit. And it's not working, like, you know what I mean? Like, even though Eddie Glaude, Eddie Glaude is Eddie Glaude. He got issues with him, but he's still kind of staying on his path. He ain't biting the hook or whatever like that. That's why she looking like, why is my voodoo not working?
All the others are dead. All but you.
So I just think that shit is funny in the motherfucker though. So that's all I got.
Yeah, she. Wait a minute, you're not Adolph Reed.
She like, supposed to be like Adolf. He's supposed to think like Adolf. That shit ain't working like.
Yeah, you said you read Adolph Reed. Damn it, you said you know him.
Kalkulinski like, we gotta get this girl out of here. We gotta get her the fuck out of here now. Word up.
Like I said, her and Kyle sound just alike. They should probably date. Like they sound just alike.
They do. I mean, it's the
same politics.
It's the same talking points, right? I mean, all these folks talk the same shit, and just maybe different phrasing, but it's all the same shit. Forget about race. It's all about class. But at the same time, you can't do. But at the same time, they recognize that talking about race and class is the most effective way to get your point across. But they're avoiding it. They're avoiding talking about race in any serious way to keep pounding for that white vote, pining for that white vote.
Well,
and
technically, talking about class and race pushes the needle most with Black and white people. When you start adding in those people of color, that shit goes, they don't fuck with race at all.
What in your position are the big differences in terms of perspectives between Black Americans and Black Caribbeans?
I think the biggest thing is what you just said in terms of describing us as Black Caribbeans. Like, people don't describe themselves as black something. They would describe themselves like there are songs, like it's not like there is no sense of that identity at all. Like people care about that to a degree, but their primary identity is their ethnicity, which is different from their race. So that I would say is probably the biggest thing. The other thing is that I don't think they are so butthurt about. That sounds. I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but it's about things. Like, it might annoy them, like they might think that, say, like Trump is racist or something because of something they've heard, but it's not the end of the world.
I don't think they are so butthurt.